You're listening to Afternoons on FNR, Football Nation Radio with Adriano de Monte and Rick D'Andrea.
Hello there and welcome to Afternoons here on FNR Football Nation Radio. It is Champions League time. The quarterfinals are upon us in the UEFA Champions League. Cannot wait to preview all of the action to come later this week. 2 fixtures tomorrow, 2 fixtures to come Thursday morning local time before the Europa League as well to round out the week. Before that, we've got some action from overnight in the Premier League and Serie A to review the end of those respective rounds. Some transfer stories as always, some big injury news at some of the Champions League clubs to come as well, and a whole lot more. If you are with us, obviously on the Facebook live stream, you can see some very nice shirts behind us and big clubs in action in some big matches this week. Quarterfinals, can't believe it is upon us, but plenty to get through, of course, over the entirety of the program. Do reach out at any time. 99449999 at FNR_radio is where you can find us on Twitter. And as always, Adriano Del Monte and Rick D'Andrea to take you through that and plenty more. Rick.
Good afternoon to you, Adrian. Hope you are well.
Looks like you've got a pretty comprehensive news list to get through today.
As always, it's very, very long, in-depth, and in a lot of detail. And let's start with the overnight action, of course. Chelsea have climbed into third place in the English Premier League with a 2-0 win over London rivals West Ham. Eden Hazard was the star of the show once again for the Stamford Bridge Blues with the solo effort to open the scoring before finding the back of the net in the second half to seal the result. Bologna have also done some climbing of sorts, getting out of the Serie A relegation drop zone with a convincing 3-0 win over Chievo. 2 Eric Pulgar penalties in the space of 3 minutes and a Mitchell Dykes goal late on were enough to see the Rosso Blu move into the safety zone. And finally, the German Cup semi-final. We saw that the draw had been announced overnight, and Werder Bremen, an interesting clash, they will take on the finalists from last season, Bayern Munich, while Hamburg will meet Red Bull Leipzig. The matches at this stage are scheduled to play in around April 23. Plenty of news to go around today, but there's 2 massive games, of course, that we will need to be previewing in a lot of detail. We'd love to get your thoughts. 99449999. Do get on the phone at FNR Radio, of course, across Facebook, YouTube, however you want to connect with us. Do get involved. Adrian, back to you.
Good stuff. Let's get into the matches overnight, and then we'll get into what's come later in the week. Obviously, the transfer stories and some other news stories, which we'll get to before getting over to the big Champions League matches tomorrow. 3 English clubs in action tomorrow.
That is correct. Yes.
There are?
Yes.
The All-English battle, and Liverpool, of course, with Porto. But 2 matches overnight in the top competitions, the Premier League and Serie A. Chelsea 2-0 win over West Ham. Eden Hazard with a double. This is the beginning of the end for Eden Hazard. I've seen some Chelsea fans take to social media and say, enjoy him while we can. And a fine double, including a stunning solo effort for the first goal. Hazard the star, Chelsea win, and Chelsea up to third. We said it yesterday, Chelsea win this game, they go to third. They've done that. They have played an extra game over, of course, Tottenham, Arsenal and United. But with 3 straight wins, they are back in the top 3, and Champions League football, incredibly, back on the agenda.
It is, and when you think about how far Chelsea have come, considering they were, they've been 6th for quite some time. They were out of the hunt early on in the season, midway through the season, in order to make the Champions League. Obviously, 3rd and 4th started to get a little bit too far away from them. But now all of a sudden, like you've just said, they're back into 3rd. They were 3rd for so long in that early to mid part of the season. I think it was 12, 13 games where they went undefeated. Now, a lot of people would be saying, well, they're rightfully back in a position where they felt they should have been from the early part of the season. They've gotten themselves back into the spot and into the place where they deservedly were to be.
They have. They could hold on. Their manager still is strongly tipped to be leaving the club, though, which is...
It's a strange one that all of a sudden, yeah, you're right, he's tipped to leave, but he could get them into the competition that he was rightfully brought in to get the team to qualify for. It's a strange set of circumstances all of a sudden. Whether he's liked or not, that's for another day, I'd say.
Of course.
But at the moment, seemingly, Maurizio Sarri has done enough to get the team into the Champions League if the league were to end today.
given what's happened, is there any way he stays at the club? Mauricio Sarri.
Well, the only way it can be is if he somehow gets a lot of the dressing room back on side and in his favour. And secondly, he either gets Chelsea through to a final of the Europa League, or he gets them automatically qualified for the Champions League. But certainly, one way or the other, he has to get Chelsea into that Premier Club competition.
Obviously, they're in the softer half of the Europa League draw, which we'll get to later in the week, of course. But Slavia Prague up in that competition. It's unbelievable, Rick, to think that Chelsea could return to the UEFA Champions League next season directly by finishing in the top 4 and win a Europa League, and Sarri will still face the axe.
It's incredible. And when you also think about how, we saw last season with Marseille. They made the Europa League final, stuffed that up, obviously, against Atletico Madrid.
That's right.
Finished ultimately in 4th place and got in to the Europa League. They didn't get into the Champions League because they fluffed up on the final match day. It's incredible that Chelsea could be in something similar of a position at this stage as well. So, hope the history doesn't repeat if you are a Chelsea fan, but it is an outside possibility.
This is a big week for Chelsea now. Of course, they're into the quarters of the Europa League. Slavia Prague away, the return leg next week. But it's the trip to Anfield at the weekend. Now, Mauricio Sarri was very vocal in his unhappiness, I suppose, with the scheduling, or the lack thereof, by the English FA with regards to the Premier League. 4 days before the Slavia Prague tie, he was forced to play West Ham, obviously this morning, in a crucial match in the Premier League, given the fact now there's only 5 matches remaining. So they really will be put to the test. Look, they couldn't have asked for a softer draw in Slavia Prague, but Slavia Prague did just eliminate Sevilla in that competition. But now you do feel that their season will be determined what will take place from here, because we do say it's incredible to think he could still finish in the top 3 and win a Europa League. However, failure to get past Slavia Prague and a loss at Liverpool could end everything, and really could end his tenure as the coach.
It really could. You're right that all of a sudden a trip to, of course, Prague could see the team possibly be on the cusp of being eliminated. But then, obviously facing a matchday 34 rival in Liverpool, and there's that connotation of what happened all those years ago when Demba Ba took full advantage of the Steven Gerrard slip. It all does come back to the fold here for Chelsea, and for their sake, I hope that the matchday 34 incident does occur, so then they can obviously win and go on and do what they needed to do back then. But at the same time, it could be a lot more costly should things go the other way.
Burnley, a trip to Old Trafford, Watford, Leicester, the run home. They can do it.
It's made for them, isn't it? If you think about it.
It is, but obviously the test will be this week. Liverpool away and the doubleheader against Slavia Prague, with the winner of the Benfica-Eintracht Frankfurt clash to await in the semi, should they get there. But again, they are in the softer half of the draw, given the 2 Spanish sides, Valencia and Villarreal. Napoli and Arsenal are in the other half, and clearly Napoli and Arsenal are their 2 biggest threats at this point in terms of star power there. But it is set up for Chelsea. Can Sarri finish it off? Even if he does, I still have my doubts whether or not he will manage the club next season. But if he doesn't manage the club next season, well, then who will? Not too many names linked to the top job. There has been one which I've seen repeatedly in, of course, Frank Lampard. But outside of not many big established names.
It looks like they're going to sort of go with the old former player who's had a stint or two away from the club, developed his coaching skills, and then gets brought back into the fold. Similar to, obviously, of course, Zinedine Zidane's the most famous one. But now, of course, with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer with Manchester United, it looks like this approach might be taken. Whether it's the right one, I don't know yet, because I don't really know if coaching a team in the Championship is worthy enough of coaching a team ultimately in the Champions League, because they are very, very, very different kettles of fish. So, yes, we do wish Frank Lampard all the best. First thing, with what he is doing currently at Derby. Secondly, with possibly getting the role at his former club in Chelsea. And thirdly, hopefully leading the team to a lot better success.
Well, Chelsea 2, West Ham 0. One story out of West Ham to come from the game. Andy Carroll, obviously still contracted by West Ham, but out of contract at season's end. He's gone in for end-of-season ankle surgery. May never feature for the club again, given the fact that he is, reportedly on the way out. So that could be the end of his career in the top
What do you make of his career at West Ham? I mean, I wouldn't think he's done too much. He's had his flashes of brilliance, but unfortunately he's just never been able to replicate that Newcastle form from all those years ago. And sure, okay, moving to Liverpool, the pressure intensified, but he certainly has not been the Andy Carroll of about 19 years ago, has he?
No, he hasn't, and unfortunately it hasn't worked out for him there. Where to next? Not sure. Really not sure at this point.
Could he become one of those players, though, that we've seen over the last few years who sort of hop around from relegation-threatened club or promoted club to another and just sort of prolong their career that way?
Yep, he potentially could.
Because he does have the experience in the English Premier League, and you might need it as one of these teams that does get promoted. Say, for instance, a Leeds, a Sheffield, a Norwich, whoever it happens to be. Still, we are getting towards the pointier end, but there's still a little bit of time to work them out. But just having that player who has played a few matches, who has seen the rigours of the English Premier League and knows when to pop up for a goal or two, it could just help them to get from 1 to 3 to 10 to 20 points and just save their top flight status.
Perhaps worth a consideration, but his form in recent seasons just hasn't been there. He's obviously joined West Ham on loan from Liverpool in 2012-13 and then made the move official the following season. But the goals have not been coming. Only obviously one goal this season, which came in the FA Cup. Look, 11 goals since the start of the 2016-17 campaign. Yes, maybe you can rely on the experience, but I suppose the goal-scoring form just has not been there in recent campaigns with West Ham. And while he hasn't had a double-digit scoring season since that 2010-11 campaign with Newcastle, where he scored 11. So he's never really been super prolific. And is he someone that a newly promoted side should potentially look at? Well, he's going to be available, so I guess perhaps probably not. For me, I think he may leave the country altogether and may play elsewhere. May look to move to Asia if there's a bit of money to cash in on.
Maybe.
Not so sure, but that's that for the Premier League. Plenty of big key fixtures to come. Liverpool, Chelsea, of course, will dominate proceedings next weekend, but plenty of football for those two sides to play between now and then. There was one match in Serie A overnight, Rick. Bologna 3, Chievo 0. Chievo Verona will be relegated. We know that. There's still 1 point to make it official.
They're gone. We can't deny that.
Rick, they had 8 yellow cards in this game. One of those was a second yellow, but nevertheless 8 yellow cards. So 7 players were booked in this game for Chievo. Their season has been... Well, look, this has been coming. Last season they were very poor in the top flight and they survived just... This time around they have just... 3-point penalty at the start of the season. That put them back early on. They've just struggled across the board. And Chievo will go down. A side that, although they flirted with Champions League football, they will go down, and I don't think this club will be one of those clubs to respond to be back anytime soon. No,
and considering as well, they also had a few financial issues where they were accused of sort of, inverted commas, cooking the books, where they inflated a few transfer fees to sort of satisfy a few people that they were making a lot of money when in fact they weren't. So for me, the Flying Donkeys, unfortunately, may have flown away for the last time in Serie A.
It might be a long while before we see them back. Conversely, Bologna are out of the relegation zone again. They go 2 points ahead of Empoli. It's getting tough down there. Frosinone will likely be relegated with Chievo, despite winning their last 2 games, obviously, against Parma and Fiorentina. Next up, Inter. Could be 3 from 3.
Could be 3 from 3.
But Empoli, Bologna, Spal, Udinese, Genoa, Parma, they're all still in danger. So the relegation battle well and truly on. Empoli and Bologna, though, with some winning form of 8. Spal as well. It's tough. You cannot take the foot off the pedal just yet, but tough to predict.
This is what tends to happen every year, though, is you end up getting a group of about 5 or 6 teams that are in contention for maybe even that last spot to be relegated. Obviously, you usually find out by more or less the next week or so who's going to stay up, also who's going down, who's the first team that is usually going down. You find that out fairly on, by about match day 31, 32, 33. But it's the others, they end up sucking in about 5 or 6 of these other teams, sort of the lower half of the table.
Yep.
And then you end up seeing a whole heap of them go and run 3-match winning streaks, 4-match winning streaks, 5 unbeaten. but unfortunately they just can't clear away from anybody else in the table because they've all got the same sort of form.
Well, we've said that with Fiorentina. Conversely, for the mid-table teams who don't have much to play for, we very often see in this competition them just completely take their foot off. And Fiorentina have done that. They're without a win in a very long time, and they'll finish mid-table. They're in 10th. They'll probably finish in 10th. 6 points adrift of 9th, 3 points clear of 11th, and they're just going through the motions. But it's those teams at the bottom who really still have plenty to play for, and there are some points up for grabs in coming weeks.
Speaking of the Viola, Fiorentina, just quickly, they have decided to actually keep their coach until the end of the season. He will not be going anywhere for the time being.
It makes sense. Look, they take on Bologna next weekend. I have a feeling that Bologna will go there and get a result.
Yep.
And the pressure will be on, but there's no point in sacking the manager when, well, you can't make Europe, nor can you be relegated. See the season out.
You're technically 1 point away from safety, so you probably want Stefano Pioli just to get the team through to the end. Reassess, of course, come June. Maybe tell him, thank you, you will play your last game on matchday 38, and then you can move on.
Winless in 8 for Fiorentina. Bologna, Juventus, they're still in the semis of the Coppa Italia, Rick.
How we forget that at the moment.
They are still in that.
And 1-1, of course, against Atalanta, the second leg to be played in about another 3 or so weeks' time.
Right.
So, theoretically, even though their coach is on the cusp of being sacked, they could somehow be in Europe. You're right.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. But that Bologna match next weekend, very important for Bologna, who got themselves out of the bottom few this morning with a big 3-0 win against Chievo. Again, 8 yellow cards, 7 players booked in that match, 1 sent off in the end. We talk about the standings in Italy. There was a report done that was published in Italian papers overnight regarding VAR and what the standings would be without it. And the reports are, Rick, that Juventus would already have won the title without VAR, which means, I think you know what it means.
I think I know what it means.
It means that, despite many critics out there who say that the VAR regularly goes in favour of Juventus, in actual fact it hasn't, because they haven't won the championship just yet with it. Without it, they would have already won it a couple of rounds ago. And a few of those teams up the top, Napoli, Roma won, Inter and Milan, they would have had a few more points, a few less points. They have profited from the VAR at times this season. So really interesting that, because I suppose the public belief is that Juve, sometimes it goes in their favour.
Gets the rub of the referee's green, to put it in a nicer way. And of course, linking back to the old saga that happened, 15 years ago. Shan't mention the name. Not going down the warpath again today. But, with the whole sort of feeling that, the Bianconetti have always sort of had the favour of the referees and always seemingly are on the right side of any sort of a free kick or a penalty call or a yellow card or a red card. Well, no, this clarifies that in the case of the video assisted referees, maybe they've had a couple of decisions that haven't gone their way, and had they been rectified then and then, well, they'd be holding up a trophy, and Piazza San Carlo in Turin would be celebrating very, very hard another Scudetto.
Instead, they need to wait till this weekend. They'll take on Spal, but before that, some big football to come. Obviously, a trip to Ajax, and what has been a very difficult week for the club, a difficult couple of weeks, given the racial incident that took place at Cagliari, and obviously what's followed from there. It's been made a little tougher. Big news breaking out of Juventus, which we will touch on as we start to preview the week of Champions League football that is, but their captain, Giorgio Chiellini, has injured his calf overnight. This is huge news. Chiellini he'll miss the game. He will. Could miss the return as well. He's had calf issues before where he's missed a few weeks. I believe when he missed the Champions League final, he actually had a calf injury. But regardless,
old man syndrome, unfortunately, that's what they say. When you start to get a calf injury, that's almost the end, and you consider a little bit older than what your body is allowing you to do.
Huge blow. We will get to that as we talk Champions League later on in the program. But a tough week gets tougher. One of the tough elements of the week was the Bonucci saga. Of course, the out-of-line comments that were made with regards to the terrible situation that took place at Cagliari. He has responded now verbally for the first time. Get your thoughts on his comments, Rick.
Sure.
I apologise to all those who have misunderstood me, and because my answer was not exhaustive. Racism must not exist in 2019, and I am 100% against it. Monkey chants? ? Yes, we heard them, and we have the tools to punish the people who make them, and we should. Your thoughts?
If you heard the monkey chants, I thought it was more or less an agreement earlier on in the season via a few other teams that had heard them that you walked off. I thought that was sort of the unwritten rule and the unwritten expectation that as soon as you heard those chants, you would just step aside off the field of pitch, go into the stadium tunnel, and wait until the crowd knew what had happened and knew that they do that again, the match will be cancelled or suspended or even postponed, depending on what the situation is. So that's that part. Secondly, obviously, it's well done to him for secondly clarifying those comments, because in the heat of the moment, in the hours after the Moise Kean monkey chants at the Cagliari Stadium, he was pretty much a scapegoat. He was lauded. We criticised him very heavily. We both did. We said, there's only one way and one way only to approach this, and he needs to stand out there and tell it as it is very, very clearly that racism is not accepted. His comments sort of said, well, 50-50, gave a bit more blame to Moise Kean. Well, that's not on. So well done on at least clarifying all that, Leonardo Bonucci.
It's a very difficult one because this is not a situation where, and he has been, he is a scapegoat of the situation, but this is a very deep...
It is.
Deep issue.
It's globally, a cultural issue.
A cultural issue in Italy, but an issue which is widespread globally, unfortunately. But yes, I suppose people need to be held accountable when they are out of line, and he was one of many. He was one of many, unfortunately. But yeah, there's a lot of work to be done there in Italy, but around the world as well. And football, again, is a powerful tool which can try instigate change in a positive way. But yeah, so at least he's clarified that, but still the pressure will be on him after a very difficult week. Yep. And now in the absence of his captain, more pressure on he to lead the Juventus defence against Ajax. We'll preview it shortly, but it's going to be a massive, massive match indeed. The last news story out of Italy that's made headlines overnight, Inter Milan, Antonio Cassano. Obviously,
what's he up to these days? Just
making comments about things. He reminds me a little of Diego Maradona. Just pops up with a comment when he needs to about something to do with his country and just makes headlines. And his latest is about Inter Milan and about Lautaro Martinez and Mauro Icardi. He's come out and had his say on the dilemma between Icardi and Inter and the fact that there's no respect there between the club and the player, which we all know. But he said it doesn't matter for Inter anyway because Lautaro Martinez, of course the young up-and-coming attacker, is better than Icardi.
I think that's going a bit too far there.
He's just trying to make headlines.
I think he's adding a lot of Parmesan cheese to a spaghetti story, to be perfectly honest here, in order to try and make it seem a lot better than it is. No, I think, Antonio, you may have stepped over the mark here in this one. I don't think your comments resonate that well. The public know the standard that Mauro Icardi has set, of course, in the Italian top flight. Lautaro Martinez has got a long way to go. And as much as you may have pumped up Inter's tyres there, unfortunately, we have to deflate yours.
Yeah, well said. Let's get to some other stats from what was an incredible weekend of action before we move on to what's to come this week. Rick, the Barca-Atleti clash was a match which obviously was the biggest game in Spain, one of the biggest games in Europe at the weekend. It was a title-deciding fixture. Barcelona now 11 points clear in Spain. But Jan Oblak, one of the stories of the season. Again, the Atleti keeper, who arguably best goalkeeper in the world at the present time. Obviously, think of the obvious ones, but Ter Stegen right up there. Of course, David De Gea, Man United, is right up there. Neuer has been up there in recent times. But Jan Oblak, you have to say, particularly this decade, would be right up there consistently with the absolute best.
What's his save percentage? I think it's something like in the mid to high 80s, if I'm not mistaken, because at one stage earlier in the season, I remember there was a stat about he had kept more clean sheets than he had conceded goals for Atletico Madrid in La Liga, or something along those sort of lines. It may have actually gone across even more competitions. I think it was something like, at that stage, it was something like 72 clean sheets for about 70 goals conceded. So it just goes to show you how important he has been for Diego Simeone's men. And then you couple that, of course, with the likes of Jose Maria Jimenez, you couple that with Lucas Hernandez, Diego Godin, Santiago Reyes, Simej Vishalko, all these sorts of players, Stefan Savic as well. And it just goes to show you how strong that defence has been for the Rojiblancos. It's always been defence first, attack later, or conversely, counter-attack and transition from the ball being distributed out from the back four.
Only 26 years of age as Slovenian international. He's still got a lot of football to play. Of course, he's only made 20 appearances for his country, which is incredible.
When you think about it, yeah, it is. They're mainly going to be mostly European qualifiers and World Cup qualifiers. There's not going to be too many friendlies in that batch as well. And we know, unfortunately, Slovenia don't get too far beyond sort of the qualifying stages. They don't sort of go to the next stage and go and play too many times.
There's also because of that man.
There is also, happens to be a player that is at Inter. He probably is in that top handful of goalkeepers around the world, and that is, of course, their new captain, or their newish captain, in Semir Handanovic.
Incredible. Jan Oblak has only played 20 times for his country. He's 26, and he's a goalkeeper, one of the best in the world. But Semir Handanovic has been a key reason as to why. But for a player who bounced around the Portuguese league earlier on in his career and then made the move to Atleti in 2014, he really has established himself. And the save percentage you raise is a good point, because he is second in Europe's top 5 leagues this season for save percentage of 80.37%, 31 games, 21 goals conceded, 80+%.
There you are.
Saved. Areola from Paris Saint-Germain, 17 games, 10 goals conceded, is number one. Give or take there, I still have Oblak ahead of Areola, despite Areola's statistical brilliance this season.
By far for me.
But he's right up there. The other interesting fact was the weekend. Now, we know that Barca played against Atleti, and Atleti were in 10 for over an hour. But the goal that broke the deadlock came 5 minutes from time. Luis Suarez.
86, yep.
Then Messi scored 86. Just to show how good Suarez's shot was, but also how good Oblak's been. Against Barcelona, Oblak conceded his first goal from outside the box in La Liga for the entire campaign.
Wow. That I didn't realise.
30 saves from 31 shots on target. That is incredible. That is really incredible.
And that's what you build your team around. They are the people that you focus on and you try and get the right pieces in to help you go to that next level, and he is definitely one of those. And if all of a sudden, if we know about the exodus supposedly that is occurring at Athletic Madrid, we spoke about it yesterday, we've spoken about it over the last few weeks on our show here. If all of a sudden there is this exodus, it will be up to those at Atletico Madrid to get the right players in to complement the Slovenian international.
Incredible season for him, but yes, well, what happens with Oblak? Because if they are to lose the others, will he want to stay? He's one of the best in the world. Will he command a move elsewhere? But we haven't really seen his name linked around.
We haven't heard his name linked around. We know that he did sign a big contract. I think it was either the start of the season or towards the end of last season. So he is tied to the club for quite some time. But at the same time, who's going to afford him?
Yeah, that's right.
He's going to break Kepa's record quite comfortably.
That's right.
I'd even go as far as, he'd be at least, I reckon he'd be the first 100 million.
Yeah, I agree.
The first £100 million /euro goalkeeper
if
to go.
If Kepa's gone for 85, Oblak's going for 100 plus.
And the rest.
Makes no sense, but just based on the precedent that's set there, no doubt.
No doubt whatsoever in my eyes.
All. And Oblak, but again, the goalkeeping situation is interesting at the moment because, well, where actually would he go? There probably isn't the right home at the moment. Unless Real wanted to do something strange and move both their goalkeepers.
But even so, I mean, even if Real do that, I wouldn't be paying 100 to go and have. Well, he'd be guaranteed game time, but you've still got Navas, you've still got Courtois. You'd have to move both pieces on to bring him in, and it just wouldn't make much sense to me at this stage.
Well, we'll see. We will see with Jan Oblak. He remains an Athletic player for this season. I believe will for next season.
I mean, the only move I can half realistically see, but it's so out of their possibilities, is Arsenal, because Bernd Leno has not worked at this stage anyway.
But that's not a move forward for
Peter Cech is going, and we know at the end of the next month. I know you're about to say it's not really a move that would make too much sense, but it's the only one that I can see.
There's a potential new home.
Yeah.
Anyway, you mentioned 100 million as a fee. Just on that, non-Madrid, Real have now learnt what price Chelsea have set for their number one target, Eden Hazard. Eden Hazard, according to reports, has been valued at £100 million, so about
112, 115,
16 million euro. So Real will have to spend that amount of money for the Belgian international. You think they've got that bang on?
Well, we've been hearing about this £100 million figure for a few months now. I mean, there was a report, if I'm not mistaken, early Feb before the Champions League season, before the Champions League round of 16 fixtures started to kick off, and we were hearing, a figure that all of a sudden would satisfy both teams is around this £100 million, which is, like I said, about 115 million euros. I don't think it's too far off the mark. I think it might be a little bit unders, but it's not going to be too far off the mark. Maybe you add a little bit of, compensation on top of that, maybe an extra 10, 15 million at the absolute most, but £115 million, I'll take it.
Transfermarkt.co.uk, a trustworthy valuation source, has Hazard valued at £135 million. So, look,
if that's £1 million, that's almost 150 plus.
So we're talking Coutinho territory here. But look, I think whatever the case is, Chelsea are aware that they are. Look, they're in a difficult place here. They are in a difficult place. They have a player who wants out. They have a club who wants him. They need to cut a very strong deal and not leave it to the last second, because they too need to reinvest that money in key assets. Maybe
after this morning's efforts against West Ham, where we saw that solo effort for the first goal, that price has gone a little bit up. But on the whole, I think that £100 million figure, I think it might be a very good starting point for further discussions going through.
Easy. All right. Well, speaking of Eden Hazard, just one final one. His brother, Thorgan Hazard, he's been linked to the Premier League to not replace his brother, but join another of the title contenders in Liverpool. However, the latest reports out of Germany are suggesting that the Mönchengladbach man will move to Borussia Dortmund to be the Chelsea-bound Pulisic replacement, valued at €40 million.
So it looks like here, all of a sudden, the money that Dortmund did get from, of course, Christian Pulisic, the man you just mentioned ago, is pretty much just going to go from the coffers that Chelsea had them in, straight, more or less, into the coffers that Borussia Mönchengladbach currently would be getting for Thorgan Hazard. It's a good move. Not as good as his brother, but certainly a very, very talented individual that had originally brought Borussia Mönchengladbach up as high as second place in the table in the Bundesliga. Very good asset.
It could be one of the steals of the summer.
It really could.
Because he has been arguably the most improved player in European football this season. He has really come on, and for a player that clearly has some strong blood within him and good relations in Eden, he could go on to become as good as his brother, and he's having a phenomenal campaign. It's great to see, and he's even worked himself into the Belgian national team, the starting 11. So it's been a very solid season. A move to Dortmund could be a nice way.
All of a sudden, if he has a breakout year next season, of course throughout the qualifiers, Euro 20, he'll be going to the European 2020 Championships. We're not disputing that. But it could be that Roberto Martinez actually utilises him a lot more in that central midfield / attacking part of the field, where the Red Devils do have a bunch and a dearth of talent up forward. So it's a very, very good move all of a sudden, should he be able to go from Gladbach to, of course, Dortmund.
A lot of news doing the rounds in European football. Plenty more to come, but Champions League previews are on the agenda, of course. Stay tuned 2 afternoons here on FNR Football Nation Radio. Last transfer stories, though, Rick, before we get to the previews tomorrow morning. Just around the ground, some reports that have come past. Karim Benzema is a very interesting one. We talk about Eden Hazard potentially arriving at Real Madrid. Karim Benzema now, reports in Spain confirming that his recent form will be enough to keep him. He will not be sold, and he is viewed as part of Chapter 2 of the Zidane era. I think that's the smart move. We discussed this yesterday without knowing these reports, that Benzema has something to offer that, no new signing can offer, and that's an understanding of what it means to play for Real Madrid. That's an understanding of what it means to succeed with Real Madrid, and invaluable experience that can be shared with an Eden Hazard and all of the superstars that will arrive, that they haven't played at that level. Correct. Because there are some that suggest that playing for Real Madrid is the greatest honour in world football from a club perspective. Benzema's been there, he's done that, and I think that the experience that he brings, Sergio Ramos brings, there aren't too many of those core leaders in that team that have been there for, the best part of a decade.
You're right, and we've talked about Benzema being this leader, like you have mentioned. He has led this Real Madrid team out of the depths, especially in January, where we thought, okay, have they woken up or are they asleep at the wheel again? His partnership with Vinicius Junior in that middle part of the season really awoken the Brazilian to actually start his career, but B, I reckon it's probably saved his career at Real Madrid. I mean, those reports in January when we started to hear about, okay, Benzema's gone, who are they getting in?
That's right.
I think now all of a sudden he's safe. And you don't score 200 goals for Los Blancos over, I think it's a 9-year period that he has been there, if you're no good. He knows where the back of the net is. He's done it time and time again. He's refound and rediscovered that form. He has led or started to lead Real Madrid post Cristiano Ronaldo by really stepping up his game. If I was Zinedine Zidane, I would not sell him at any cost whatsoever.
I don't think there's any replacement out there for Karim Benzema, particularly after losing Ronaldo as well. You're losing the core of your attacking group, and it's tough.
And then when you also factor in the whole argument about, of course, Gareth Bale going this summer, or at least in particular the intensification of the rumours now that Zidane has returned, and what happened, of course, in the Champions League final, you really couldn't lose your three key pieces. No. In the best part of 2 summers.
How often Bale, Benzema and Ronaldo were that key trio up top, and they got it done many times across European competitions and also in Spain as well. It would be very tough for them to proceed, but one of the other superstars who Benzema may need to take under his wing is his former French international teammate Paul Pogba. These reports are strengthening now. France Football overnight writing an opinion piece based on the fact that Paul Pogba has to leave United for Real Madrid because the enthusiasm that the report said that Pogba had found following the departure of Jose Mourinho has quickly, it's gone away. It is gone. He's back to where he was. This is from those close to him, reportedly. And internally, he's being questioned, and a move to Real Madrid would correspond with better player qualities, the magazine goes on to claim, and that they feel that this would be the right move based on those close to him who feel where his head's at the moment going forward. I think failure to make the Champions League for United next season, failure to keep hold of Paul Pogba.
Yeah,
he was gone, Ricky.
Yeah, I know he was gone. We were saying, okay, who's going to go first? And it looked like at the time when Mourinho was still there that you would get rid of the player before you got rid of the coach.
He was absolutely
He was
gone.
Out the door of Stretford Lane, ready to walk down the street, hail a taxi and go into a brand new country. Yes, I remember those discussions that we were having. I just don't know now with the... I think France Football did get the right word. The enthusiasm. He's still got it. He's got the enthusiasm. A new season comes along. We know that the coach has finally been selected. We know that what happened around them all of a sudden. This isn't the same Manchester United team that we saw in November. And so, yes, he has been the instrumental one to get them out of that conundrum that they found themselves in. But I don't think it's as simple as all of a sudden he's going to be leaving the club, considering he returned. He returned to Manchester United. I don't think it's not as simple as, he doesn't like it, doesn't love the club as much as he used to, he can't find the enthusiasm. No, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he will be staying.
I'm going to disagree. I think he's going to leave at the end of the season, and I think Real Madrid will be the new home. I thought it would be Barcelona, but not now with De Jong coming in and, question marks over other midfielders. Rakitic, again, overnight, linked to Juventus, but... I'm starting to believe this a little more now, but he may be the one to be forced out. But Pogba, I don't think to Barca, I think to Real. It could be the option there. But then what would that mean for their trio? Casemiro stays for Kroos and Modric. What do we see Modric and Rakitic play in Serie A next season, maybe?
Well, that would be very interesting, wouldn't it? I'm sure Zlatko Dalic would be very, very enticed by such a move all of a sudden. Maybe you might be able to entice one of them to come out of retirement for the other.
Charles Santino, who's just come through there. How are you? Last one. On the transfer front, another former Real Madrid player, Gonzalo Higuain. From a personal point of view, Rick, I want to do as well as I can so I can be here for next season, here being Chelsea. I came here to Chelsea and I wanted to stay. It's a good city, you live well and you can be relaxed, but also enjoy yourself, so my intention is to stay. But I don't think that will happen.
He's on too much of a wage and has underperformed this season for me to see him stay, unfortunately. Joey's just quickly comes through. He's actually said Kroos is a number 8. Pogba would be the perfect 10. And that's...
I take that point on board.
That's how I see it at the moment. That's why I think at Manchester United he fits in way too nicely.
Yeah, he fits in way too nicely.
But at Real Madrid, I don't think they have that playmaker. And we know the whole James Rodriguez saga. If you want a perfect number 10, you've already got him on your books, and you're going to be getting him back June 1. Why do you need to go spend... north of £105 million or whatever it will be.
They'll sell James in that case.
Well, James, we'll have to wait and see what they do with James, but that's another story, and that's a side story in itself. But I don't think Pogba fits into this Real Madrid team as nicely as you think stars. With that
they
enthusiasm.
Want stars, and I understand Kroos is an 8 and Pogba is a 10, what the case is, but to be fair, Juventus found a way to fit Pogba into the system and bring the best out of Pogba, and they did it quite well. United struggled to do that until a few weeks ago, and now they've brought the best out of him, but now that enthusiasm has gone. I think for Real, it's a case of having star power in and then figuring out what to do. I'm not saying they'll have no plan with a strategy in place for what they want to do, but I can see Pogba coming in. He would have to come in at the expense of someone if he were to come in, and I just feel that without Champions League football, he will not remain at United. He will not remain at United without it.
Let's wait and see. I know I keep saying it over and over again, but let's wait and see how this will all pan out.
We are back here on afternoons on FNR Football Nation Radio, previewing a big week of Champions League action. Cannot believe it's back again, the quarterfinals. We're down to the final 8. Well, I can believe it. Feels like forever since the last round, but so much drama to come. 2 fixtures tomorrow, 2 fixtures Thursday morning. All of the action in Australia live on Optus Sport, of course. Tottenham, Man City, Liverpool, Porto tomorrow morning. Let's start with Tottenham, Man City, the all-English battle, Rick. Let's have a look at this one. How does this play out? Tottenham, terrible form in the league, but I just feel like they've been setting themselves for this one for a while now. And obviously, well, if they don't finish in the top 4 as well in the Premier League, this is their only hope. Win this competition to return next season.
There's a lot on the line all of a sudden here for Mauricio Pochettino and, of course, Tottenham. Not only is this the first time they're playing in a quarterfinals in Europe since about, 2010, 2011, 2012, in and around that sort of very early 2010, the 10s, whatever you want to call it.
The 2010s.
The 2010s, thank you. We'll go with that today. But, yeah, you're right. There's this pressure now all of a sudden to get past one of the English-based teams because we know that they have unfortunately not been able to do that in the league this season too many times. But now this pressure is on that, well, the top 4 race is heated up. Maybe the only way to somehow survive in Europe and in the Champions League is by going all the way and getting past, of course, one of the teams that are considered favourites to win, A, the title here in this competition, but B, of course, do the double and win the English Premier League.
Can they actually do it, and how important is this first leg at home? Keep in mind, they've just moved into their new stadium. So, okay, they had a win in their first match in their new stadium, Palace.
Yes.
They took care of.
The toughest test, finally, that they will get in their new White Hart Lane.
Doesn't get any tougher than this in terms of maybe Liverpool, but a domestic club, an English club. It's Man City already. It's a quarter-final of the UEFA Champions League. And look, Tottenham, to be fair, recent form against City, not great.
Not the greatest.
So, look, they have been a club that have been pushing the top few without actually taking results off the top few. Well, certainly not City. No win against City in their last 4 fixtures. So a big opportunity here for City to put their foot down and come out on top. But they too have issues of their own. Still not certain that Aguero will feature in the match. And obviously he's missed the last few. He didn't play in the FA Cup semi-final, but that was due to precaution, I believe. They hope he's fit, but he hasn't played. He's not match fit. I'm sure he's match fit, but he hasn't played the last few games. There are a few headaches here. I just can't go past City over 2 legs here to get past Tottenham, but Tottenham certainly need a result in this first leg.
I'm actually going the opposite. I think the pressure is going to get to Manchester City. I mean, you have to think back, what happened last season at the same stage?
I think they've come on in leaps and bounds.
They may have come on in leaps and bounds, but this is the test that Pep Guardiola has been waiting for. Getting an English-based team
that's right.
in the quarter-final of a Champions League.
This is obviously last season was a disaster. Against Liverpool, and that was in the quarters as well.
Correct.
That was an absolute disaster for Guardiola and City. But this is what this season has been geared towards. Look, City can still win the quadruple, they can still win it all, but this is the one that above all else he wants. And Guardiola, this is it. If he cannot achieve success in the Champions League this season, where he's at, how dominant they've been, particularly in 2019. Well, where are we at? Honestly, City, where are we at? Because Guardiola can keep trying, but this is the moment right now where I believe his tenure at Man City will be determined. They're the favourites for the Champions League. The bookmakers have them as the favourites. They, in their own minds, are the best club in Europe. They have a core group of players that have been together for some time. They have it all. They have 6 or 7 world-class attackers in their ranks. They have it all. Absolutely all. There are no excuses for Man City here. They simply must get past Tottenham and make light work of Tottenham. I believe Tottenham will push them, but they must, over the 2 legs, make light work of Tottenham and really put their foot down and cruise through to the semi-finals.
Having said all that, though, what did Tottenham happen to do in the round of 16? They got past one of the league leaders at the time.
In the worst form of their season.
In the worst form of their season, yes. I was about to say that. But they managed to do it in convincing fashion that first leg. And considering that Tottenham have always been called these bottlers, these chokers, this is not the time to bottle it or choke it now. Now is the time for the likes of Harry Kane, Dele Alli, Christian Eriksen. We can name them all and go on all day long. But now is the time for them to all stand up and really put on the performance of their lifetime. It really is. It's made for it.
Well, Pochettino said, we will try to dominate. Guardiola says Spurs are an incredible team. No doubt that Spurs are an incredible team. And what they've achieved this season
is incredible.
Resources is unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. I wrote them off at the start of the season. The fact that they are still in there, I'm not surprised they've dropped off of late, but the fact that they're still in the running for a top 4 spot, given how much money those other clubs have spent and the improvement in some of the other clubs as well, is a credit to Pochettino and all involved at Tottenham. But this is Manchester City, who are desperately hungry for a Champions League final. They're not worrying about just a quarterfinal. They're worrying about winning this whole thing. And I don't know where Guardiola will be at if City lose.
You just hope that Guardiola hasn't set his eyes too far ahead beyond this first leg quarterfinal. If he's already starting to plan for the semi-final and who he potentially might be able to be playing there, then Man City have lost this. And that's what happened to them last season against Liverpool. I just hope that history won't repeat itself in that respect and that they will have learnt the lessons from 12 months ago. And I fear, though, that yes, you can see that they have gone on this rampage. They have defeated everybody left, right and centre with multiple goals, plenty of clean sheets. But now is the time. And now is the time that we have to actually see what they've been practicing for so long now be perfected against Tottenham, and I don't think that's going to happen.
So Aguero obviously is the big story. Will he play? Will he start? What will the situation be? Dyer and Lamela still out for Tottenham, of course. Aurier and Llorente out are doubtful as well in this one. A few players in doubt of if they're booked, they may miss the next match, which is always a factor. Aguero is one for City. How crucial would that be? Say a second leg, City go through, Aguero is booked, misses a semi-final. That could be a big blow for Man City.
Could be a big blow, especially in particular if you've got Gabriel Jesus at the moment. That's their only other centre forward at this stage. We know that Guardiola relies on these sort of winger slash playmaker type players to actually not only provide the assist but to also get their goals. Could be a very big blow, but there's also one equally important on the other end. Hwang Son Min, all of a sudden from Tottenham. We know the season that he's had. We know he's sort of fallen off that little bit, but the very high perch and standard that he was able to set, he's the one that could be the one to determine whether Tottenham stays in the Champions League or gets bundled out. If he picks up a yellow, I give Tottenham zero chance in the second leg.
Alderweireld and Lamela, the other two. Lamela obviously won't play here. Otamendi also at risk of missing the second leg if he's booked in this match. So a couple of issues coming in to this one, but it promises to be an intriguing affair. Obviously the first ever UEFA match played in the new Tottenham Stadium, the new White Hart Lane. I'm excited. I really am excited to watch this one. I'm going to predict that City will win, but I'm not doing that with too much confidence. I think City will win 2-1. But yes, obviously Tottenham, this is the match. They can say we'll go to the Etihad and get a result, but quite clearly, given City's dominance in 2019, that's unlikely. A result here is crucial. I don't think they'll do it. I just think that City are in a too good form, and irrespective of whether Aguero plays or not, I think City over 180 will be far too strong.
I'm going to go the opposite. Tottenham to win 2-1 for me.
That would set up an amazing second leg. Obviously for Tottenham, imagine they could win and keep City to 0 without the away goal. That would be a great achievement. But obviously Harry Kane, a lot of pressure on him once again. Eriksen, this is a player who, this could be the beginning of the end for his time at Tottenham. Very strongly linked away. Another one of those players linked to Real Madrid. They have the star power. Can they deliver against, a star-studded City outfit? We will see. But I'm going to say City 2-1. Rick saying Tottenham 2-1. Let us know your predictions at FNR_radio. The other match tomorrow morning, Rick. Last season's finalists, Liverpool up against Porto. A repeat of last season's round of 16 meeting between these two sides, which Liverpool, they won quite easily. They did. But there was a 5-0. But there was a 0-0 in there as well. But obviously that was the second leg after winning 5-0. But Liverpool Porto here, at Anfield the first leg, which I don't like for the visiting Porto. We know Porto lost away from home in the previous round against Roma 2-1. However, they did get that away goal late on. They kept fighting. They got the away goal, which ultimately decided the tie. Do you give them any hope of going to Anfield and getting a result?
Sorry. I'm unfortunately, I'm not going to say I'm going to give you too much hope if you are a Dragao supporter. Why? It's not because of what Liverpool have up top. It's because of who you're missing down back. That's where my biggest issue is all of a sudden. No Alex Telles. Well, he's doubtful at the moment. He's got that hip injury.
Yep.
But there's no Pepe.
Yep.
Who has Pepe been partnering since he joined, of course, from Besiktas during the offset or during the winter transfer window? Eder Militao. With no Militao, I'm going to say he's got too much to handle all of a sudden. He might have to be biting off a little bit more than he can chew, and this might start to expose to the Dragao that little bit more for me.
Porto, of course, in some really nice form domestically, but this is a step up. We absolutely know that, and Jurgen Klopp knows that. He said, we're on fire at the moment. They know Liverpool come in, this tie could be over within the first 45 minutes. It really could. Liverpool put their foot down and breeze past Porto's. We've seen them do it at Anfield against the very best in football. Right. It could be over, but I think that first half is going to be a key factor. I am expecting Porto have said that they'll be creative, they'll be smart, which for me means that they will approach this game quite cautiously. They know that getting through the first half unscathed, 0-0 at half-time, would be an amazing achievement and at least set them up to, well, maybe launch a counter-attack or two in the second. So don't expect too much from Porto here. I think Porto will be confident given their home dominance, domestically and in Europe. The group stage as well, they beat Roma. They took care of Roma there, obviously, after extra time in the end. But Porto, I feel, the only hope that they have is by just parking the bus and trying to absorb the Liverpool pressure. Will they achieve and succeed in 90 minutes doing that?
That's the hardest of the two questions, yeah.
It is unlikely.
And you also, sorry, I forgot to add this as well, but no Pepe as well that I touched on. No, of course, Alex Telles. Militao's on that yellow card.
Of course.
So all of a sudden he can't go as hard as he normally would in the game. And who happens to be their right back? Danilo, who's also on a yellow card.
Yep.
So you're talking about being incredibly cautious, parking the bus. I'm sure if I'm Jurgen Klopp, I'm going to be instructing in particular Andy Robertson on the left to really go hard at, of course, here Danilo. And if I am a Roberto Firmino, I'm just going to get under the skin of course, his Brazilian teammate and really, really threaten him for the entire 90 minutes, hoping that he has a bit of a brain fade and he can pick up a yellow card and really put the Reds into a favourable position for the second leg.
Hector Herrera also suspended, so a blow in midfield there. And obviously those players picked up bookings in the previous round against Roma. So, yeah, there are a couple of key players out, and that's why I feel Porto just need to try and absorb the pressure and hope Liverpool are off, which they're not regularly off because they've been scoring for fun.
Could that then mean that we might be actually looking at the wrong end of the pitch, or at least I'm starting to look at the wrong end of the pitch? Could it actually be that the Moussa Marega versus Virgil van Dijk battle is the one to watch, because that will determine if all of a sudden you do see these balls in transition, if all of a sudden we do see these counter-attacking breaks from the Dragao, they're only going to be looking towards their striker to score. And we know how important he was in the round of 16. He missed the first game. He came back and scored this 2-2 goal ultimately that saw the Dragao go through on away goals. Could that be the one that we should actually be analysing, not at the other end with all the absences that are potentially on the cards here for Porto, the Portuguese champions?
No doubt. Keep in mind, Robertson also suspended for Liverpool, which means Milner will likely play a fullback role. Yes, Marega has been very, very important. Of course, he missed that first leg in the round of 16 tie against Roma, and Porto really lacked attacking options. But his size, his physicality and presence in that second leg, and his pace as well, he can move very quickly for a big man. Marega will be a handful for that Liverpool back four, but I feel he'll be starved of opportunities just given the cautious approach that I'm expecting. And I feel with the cautious approach, his role on the night will be to essentially hold the ball up and do what he can against, well, clearly one of the world's best in Van Dijk. But Marega, he has scored in a couple of Porto's recent 3 away trips in this competition. They will be reliant on him again if he can impact, he will then force the Liverpool back four to just sit back that extra line or two. That could be a key factor, and I think his presence and ability to control the ball up top in the first half particularly will be paramount if they want to go into the break 0-0. Make no mistake about it. Porto go in 0-0, they're alive in the tie. If they, I don't believe that will be the case. I can see Liverpool 2-3 up at the break immediately, just given the approach I know Jurgen Klopp will implement in this game. It's going to be a fascinating tactical battle between the two managers here, and Porto, if they can take something away into the second leg, who knows? Who knows?
If they can somehow, you're right. If they can somehow get themselves in a far better position than they were in that 5-0 first leg last season, round of 16, you have to give them an outside chance. But it's just a very, very big ask at this stage. You really can't see the Portuguese champions putting themselves into the box seat ahead of the second leg back home.
And they're obviously they're in good form domestically, but. Yeah, they'll still have a few nightmares. When this draw was complete, despite drawing 0-0 at Anfield last season, that was the second leg after losing 5-0 at home. This is not the team that they would want to have drawn here. No. But they have, and that's why they'll approach it cautiously, because they would not want a repeat of what took place last season. That first leg in the round of 16 last season, it was 2-0 within the first half hour, and a repeat of that this time around, it's over.
Yep.
Tie completely over. But prediction time, Rick. It's very tough. It's very tough because I do feel that Porto will literally park it in the first 45 minutes, and if they can hold out to half time, I would predict that Liverpool will still win, but narrowly. But that is a big if. So if I have to be bold and make a prediction, I think that Liverpool will win. I still think they'll find a way through, and I think that they'll do it quite easily, and I think that they'll do it to 0, would be my prediction.
My tip was actually going to be 3-0 to Liverpool and maybe a goal by half-time. So
I'll stick with that, 3-0.
That's where I'm sort of standing. I think, as we sort of touched on, that defence for Porto, it's going to get tested time and time again. Those people that are missing and those who are on the yellow card and on the cusp of possibly being suspended, I could see, everyone in that attacking third for the Reds just really pepper them over and over and really barrage them. I think that might be the case for them. If they were to pick up one of those yellow cards, then the floodgates open. Agreed. And that's how I'm seeing it.
There you go. So Tottenham and City 2-1 we've both predicted, but I've tipped City, Rick's tipped Tottenham. We've both predicted 3-0 for Liverpool. I think that'll be about bang on.
Yep.
I really do. But the first half crucial in that very interesting Liverpool-Porto clash. A quick look ahead to Thursday's matches. Full previews to these tomorrow. Man U, Barca, Ajax, Juve. How are we feeling in the lead up to Man U and Barca? We've discussed Paul Pogba. What if anything, can Manchester United do to stifle the quality of those attacking players for Barcelona?
Well, I think there's going to have to be a little bit of the Porto approach here. I think Manchester United have to sit back a little bit and then on the counter try and open up, what Barcelona do throw at them defensively. And we know the issues that Barcelona do have in that back four. Depends who ultimately Ernesto Valverde does pick to partner Gerard Piqué. That will determine how this first leg could go. So if you're a Manchester United supporter, have a lot of faith, because you could actually be walking away with a result in the first leg and giving yourselves a lot of hope all of a sudden to get through to the semis.
I need to sleep on this one. I'm not sure how I feel. I see where you're coming from with regards to United possibly taking something away, but Barca at Barca's best will be far too strong for Manchester United, but they have been leaky. So, who's the goal scorer? Where will the goals come from? Who will dominate this match for United? That's what we need to determine. But a lot of players will miss this match. Good news for Barca, though, is that Ousmane Dembele has been included in the squad despite that hamstring injury. So he will return. But yeah, there are a few headaches for United, of course. A team that have been dealing with all sorts of injury issues all season.
But quickly, they do get that big long list of players back that they missed from the second leg.
Sure.
That is going to be a little bit of a factor that could help
previous
them.
Round,
correct.
Of course. That is true. Of course, Pogba is one who returns.
I think there are 11 players that missed that would have been in the starting mixture.
Still, how that result happened is beyond me. But Man United, Barca will preview that tomorrow. Ajax, Juve, the other one. The big news out of this, Giorgio Chiellini, the captain of Juventus, will all but certainly miss the match. Injured his calf at training on Monday, meaning he will likely miss the second leg as well. That's a massive blow. No Barzali, who's still the 37-year-old veteran, still out. No Martin Cáceres, who was brought in to replace Mehdi Benatia, who was sold. He's out for another couple of weeks. No Emre Can, who... Well, he filled in as a makeshift back three player in the previous round against Atleti. No Chiellini. It's down to Bonucci and Rugani, a duo that haven't really worked at times this season.
And let's see how Cristiano Ronaldo's body is going to hold up.
Before we even get to him.
He knows that he's going to be ready for this one. He's been proclaiming this ever since he picked up that injury against Serbia all of a sudden a few weeks ago in the Euro qualifiers. Let's see if they can all of a sudden get this bang on right.
No Douglas Costa, Juan Cuadrado's not in the squad. There are massive issues for Juventus here.
At this stage, with 36 hours to go, I'm tipping Ajax to get a slender, narrow lead.
Pressure is on. Pressure is on, but full previews of that tomorrow. Full review of, obviously, the other two Champions League fixtures, Tottenham City and Liverpool Porto. Nîmes and Rennes meet tomorrow in Ligue 1 as well. I'm tipping Rennes will get the win there. Their good form set to continue.
Same.
Looking forward to that. Join us tomorrow at the same time. We'll do it again. A big show today, a bigger show tomorrow. The Champions League is back and in full swing. Enjoy that, and we'll be back tomorrow to bring you all of the results and analysis from the latest happenings in European football. For now, from Adriano Del Monte and Rick D'Andrea, this has again been Afternoons here on FNR Football Nation Radio, your voice of football in Australia and right around the world. Until next time, it's goodbye for now.
You're listening to Afternoons on FNR, Football Nation Radio with Adriano Del Monte and Rick D'Andrea.